Hello, my name is Kurachiota, and this is New Retirement Thinking. I'm joined today by Jeanetta Hendricks, who's the beneficiary funds expert from the Fedgroup. Welcome to you, Jeanetta.
Thank you, welcome.
Right, before we start, I think it would be a great place just to get the nomenclature right. What are beneficiary funds?
So beneficiary funds are a pension fund organization. It's been set up to accept and administer funds on behalf of minor beneficiaries. So trustees of a pension fund, if they, in their discretion, decide or see that a minor child is dependent on the pension fund or the deceased pension fund member, they are able to make payment in respect of that beneficiary into a beneficiary fund. And so the beneficiary fund will then allow payments to the beneficiary, payments in terms of support, payments in terms of big things like hospitalization or medical needs.
So it's creating a capacity and a structure where in case the donator,
yes,
myself, to protect my children's interests as an interposer, the Beneficiary Funds Act to look in their interests when I can't make it.
Absolutely. So the pension fund member would then pass away, but would want funds to go to their minor child, etc. It's really a social fund, Kura, so that when a pension fund member passes away, the trustees have a look at it and at the setup, and they see who was dependent on that pension fund member, either factually or by birth, and so forth. And they make judgment calls in terms of who should actually get the proceeds and in what proportion they should get the proceeds from that deceased members.
Now, how would they go about doing that? Are the trustees employees of your organization, or are they described when I do a will and I have my eventualities and I'll put my brother and I'll put my cousin to say, look, you're a lawyer and you're an accountant, I think you could do this. Who decides who the trustees are?
Okay, so the trustees of the pension fund, so that would be the donor pension fund.
Yeah.
So the employee, while alive, really works for an employer and they participate in a pension fund.
Yes.
So those trustees would make the call once that employee or pension fund member passes away. If the pension fund member has nominated a brother, a lawyer, and so forth to look after the best interest of the child, the pension fund trustees would look at it and understand it and really make sure that this is in fact the case. So they don't necessarily look at the nomination that you make, and that is guided by the discretion that they have under Section 37C of the Pension Funds Act. So that nullifies almost in effect the nomination. What can happen though is some pension fund structures make provision for group life benefits. And under group life, so group life doesn't fall under Section 37C of the Pension Funds Act, so the group life falls under the Long-Term Insurance Act. And if you had nominated beneficiaries, the insurer has to, by virtue of that, pay out to whomever you've nominated. But if a child was nominated, okay, the child wouldn't be able to inherit, and the proceeds that would be earmarked for the child could then also now be paid into a beneficiary fund to look after the child.
Okay, so my children go to private school currently.
Right.
If I passed away,
yes,
and the financial prospects are, would they maintain that? With the discretion of the beneficiaries, would they say, look, we need this money to last until they get to the legal age of majority? Do they make the call, private school, public school? How do they use their discretion to provide the maximum benefit for the funds that are left behind?
Right, so the donor funds, if they decide to place the monies for the children into a beneficiary fund, they hand over the fiduciary responsibility to the trustees of the beneficiary fund now. So it's a handover. But those trustees of the beneficiary fund, they certainly look at, they provide for the well-being and care of that child. So the funds are used exclusively for the child it's intended for, or children it's intended for. And what is important is they look at certain factors, like the age of the child. So how long are these funds supposed to last? Okay, they also look at what the child has been accustomed to and whether the funds that you've now collected in your pension fund are able to meet those needs. And those are the deciding factors that they look at.
The practicalities of it, so they're there to meet the expenses of the surviving child.
Right.
my child doesn't get an invoice in his name for school fees. He doesn't buy his own clothes.
Right.
There's somebody looking after him.
Absolutely.
Would the guardian of the child then receive that on behalf and then have to meet the child's expenses like that? Technically, how do you make sure that it is going to the child who it's designated to?
You know, you've touched on a very important point, that the funds are meant for the exclusive use of the child. So a guardian is normally appointed. The child won't be receiving the funds. So the guardian is appointed, and the trustees ensure that the guardian is always the correct guardian. Is that the legal guardian? Is that the correct guardian? And they pay funds on behalf of the child into the guardian's bank account, nominated account. They also check on a regular basis to see that the child actually still resides with the guardian. So that practice is probably an annual practice in most instances, where they send out certificates of existence, pretty much like proof of life that you would get with an annuity, where the guardian has to demonstrate that they still are the legal and bona fide guardian and are using the funds on behalf of the child and the child only.
All right, we're talking about beneficiary funds. On the other side of the break, we're going to get even further detail from our expert on the show today. We'll see you just now.
New retirement thinking is proudly brought to you by 10X. Why settle for less?